we would have this game where we would like reinvent the mantra.
Something was just typing through me. And I was like, I fucking published a book.
About that big?
About that big. Like
Wow.
2 foot in diameter.
I saw 2 orbs.
Past, present, future. It really is just infinite.
How do we create things and why?
You know what an etch and sketch is?
A Chinese finger trap?
We can develop a limiting belief of what is real.
Absolutely changed my life. I was like, holy shit, that is a movie.
Well, what was your question?
I feel like you're gonna like to move around a lot.
I do.
You strike me as a mover.
Yeah.
A mover in the shape.
After a few 100 milligrams of caffeine, I'm a little jittery.
Dude, I have to
I usually wear like a winter hat all the time.
Yeah, it always wigs me out because when I edit these things, I have to hear my voice and look at myself a whole bunch.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's such a good practice. And just the other day, I was talking to a guest where golf coach of mine, and it's like having a round of golf. Even if I duff a few shots, whatever. There's redos, there's mulligans. And actually, when it comes to editing these things, I'm trying to be more okay with shit. I digress. Dustin Matthews.
Well, I feel like I'm like, let's dive in and dissect what you just said. Why? No, I feel you, and I've been like trying to create a lot of content with music and a book. And I used to have a YouTube channel, and that like self-judgment that comes in because, you know, we're inside of ourselves. So then when we get to see ourselves and hear ourselves, and we're trying to put out content, we can judge ourselves.
It's like looking in the mirror, right? Which you mentioned in the book.
Yeah.
Your book that you wrote, Imagine, just finished it last night. I enjoyed it. I really did. It kind of found me when I reached out about doing an interview in the first place. I was feeling really low, man. Seasonal depression, amongst other things. It was like back to basics. All right, routine, meditation, which I still haven't done since I read the book. But I want to go into more about how the book came to be.
Well, it started when I was a college football coach, and I wasn't a meditator at the time, but I had always kind of had faith in God. Oh, get a little closer there.
Faith in God is good.
Faith in God is good. Yeah.
Don't mind me.
So it started out as a playbook for the guys I was coaching, and it was just everything that I had learned that I wish I knew earlier, so I could have applied it to become better. So just out of the desire to want to help people, I remember the first night I had this like experience of something else come through me when I was writing it, and I was in the football office, and I just felt this like something just like sat me up straighter, lit me up inside, and I was just like typing, and it was like something was just typing through me, and I was kind of removed, just aware of what was happening, and I didn't know what that experience was at the time, and that's what got me started writing that book. And over like the course of 8 years, I ended up coming to MIU, and I learned TM, came to MIU, got a master's in Vedic science. And then I was like, oh, that experience was this. And I was like, oh, whoa. That was just kind of the beginning of gaining enough of an experience, but also having the intellectual understanding of what it was that I was experiencing to be able to begin to talk about it. And now that's kind of like a little bit more stabilized. I still, drink some caffeine and get a little wild, but
sure.
I always, kind of come back to just truth.
Yeah. Well, so what do you attribute to that first sort of moment, as you said, something coming through you? Were you open to it in some way that you hadn't been previously, or what kind of wave were you riding?
Those big wave surfers? I had just crashed off one of those waves. And so I had finished playing college football, and I was a coach, and I had always kind of attached my desire in my life to being a football player, and making the transition from player to coach, that was really hard, losing that kind of identity. And I was already pretty screwed up with drugs and alcohol, and I had a experience where I almost overdosed on cocaine and felt like my breath kind of leave my body, and I had to just like pray all night just to keep my breath from leaving my body. And then I was like, oh wait, if I'm leaving my body, I'm not my body. And then I'm like, all those questions began of like, well, then who am I? What happens when I die? And basically just prayed for God. I'm like, whatever it is, save me, because I'm a little scared right now of what's going on. I feel like I'm losing my identity because I've identified my whole life with my body. And to feel like I was transitioning out of body was just like this life-changing experience, and start asking those deeper questions when I had that kind of identity crisis issue of like, I'm not a football player anymore. Oh, I'm not even my body anymore. Who am I? Follow this. This.
There's something kind of paradoxical about, like, maybe in our darkest moments, we kind of find the light. It sounds so cheesy, but like it's true. I remember when I was first learning how to ride a bike, and I was just so pissed because I couldn't get it. And like my mom kept saying like, oh, you got this, you're gonna keep going. And then like once I actually did, this feeling of like crossing the threshold, and then the joy and the laughter that came with like, oh my God, I had no idea what I was doing, and then suddenly I do, and then there's like that sort of mystery of creation. Oh, I just tapped this. Testing. Good. We'll edit that part out. How do we create things, and why? You seem to be a doer. You wrote a book, and you make music, and I've seen some of the covers of your albums, and especially like during the pandemic, in a lot of ways it crushed people's creativity and they like didn't do anything. And then you seem to be one of the people that it actually elevated their creativity. Well,
it didn't just start in, COVID that I started creating. I've been working on things for years where I would write poetry as a little kid. Roses are red, violets are blue, all that shit. And then over time, my vocabulary increased a little bit. It hasn't gone beyond that too much, but over time, I've just, those deeper desires, that inner knowing, that, you can call it your soul, your consciousness, whatever. If you just follow that inner knowing and follow what makes you happy. Like I know for me, I always loved music and songs and acting and writing, and but I didn't always have the courage to like pursue that in a realistic way. The conditioning of society and your experiences and whatever trauma, if you're shamed for something as a young kid, you can repress it. So for me, creativity was just a way to kind of get all that repressed shit out. Then once COVID started, I had a little more free time to really dive in and be like, all right, well, I've been doing this for quite a while. Might as well I had to get to a point where I had like hundreds and hundreds of songs recorded. And I was like, am I just going to sit on these and just listen to them for myself? Like I would walk around with my headphones with my own music playing all the time.
Oh, cool.
But I hadn't let anybody else hear it. And so I was like, fuck it. Just let it go. And so I was just like, created 4 different albums of different types of music, sad hip-hop shit, happier hip-hop shit, some aggressive rap, some humorous rap. And then I was like, pow, 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 and just let it all go. And that was, for me, it was more about letting go of the fear of judgment. Releasing all that shit was just like, all right, let it go. Stop with the expectations of what I think I'm going to get from this. So for me, it's always more about, it's become more about the learning and the growth rather than the products. So it's more of a process focus.
I love that because it's so relatable. As I continue to do this podcast, I think when I first started, like I knew there was a handful of people that I just had to talk to, and I thought it would be so cool to do a podcast style. And then in the back of my brain, I'm just thinking like, oh, wouldn't it be cool to be famous and so successful off of this? And it kind of shrouds, suddenly wanting more followers, this and that, and you kind of course correct and you check yourself and where your motivations are. And then another principle too has just been like following my curiosity, like, let's rap the sad song or the funny song. But it sounds like you didn't really have, it wasn't a question of whether or not you were producing it. It was really getting over the hurdle of judgment. Mm-hmm. Was there anything in particular that helped you get over that, or?
There's a difference between judgment and discernment. And creating art, you don't want to judge, but you want to be able to discern. So if you want to put out quality content, there's a certain quality that you expect from yourself based on your skills. So it's like if you know you're fulfilling your highest potential at that time, then I think your discernment would be, this is the best I can do right now, let it fly. It's not going to be a month, hopefully 1 month from that time that you put it out, you'll look back and be like, because that means you've progressed. And having the freedom to just like, I kind of make this joke, but it's like when you digest food, it's like you eat it and then you shit it out. It's the same with art. Yeah. You're taking in with your senses, your experiences, you're processing it, and you're putting it out. Once it's out, it's out. You're going to process more shit, literally and figuratively.
Yeah, well, I guess you got to let it go, right? Yeah. And then it's so true. It's like, if you have like a hit song or something, and then, before you know it, all the cover bands are playing it or doing a remix, or it's in the club and it's getting mishmashed with the other stuff. I think there is a certain letting go, like it's not yours anymore. It's out in the world. It's kind of, it's a baby. It's going to grow up. It's going to do whatever it wants to do, you know? You got to love it unconditionally.
And I would say it was never really mine to begin with.
Oh, yeah.
So most of the, when I create, I usually surrender. And that's what helps me like not judge myself, because I'm like, I surrender. I'm just the one. I'm like the paintbrush. I surrender to God. That's what I call it. You can call it whatever you want, but I'm just like, whatever it is, I let it come through me. Yeah. And that's what allows me to, I feel like that's what allows me to create so much, is because I don't judge it, because as soon as I start judging it, it stops the flow. So I open the gates and I'm like, surrender, create, and then make the best thing that I can make based on where I'm at with my skills, and then let it go. And then I'm like, okay, next.
Yeah, that's great. Being a vessel for it to just kind of come through you. And it sounds like that's how your book started too.
Yep. Somewhere
in me, like I'm thinking, I really want to write a book at some point. I haven't totally pulled the trigger on it yet, but I'm curious, like what was your writing style? How long did it take you, and kind of how did you fit it into your daily routine?
I was 23, I think, when I started writing it, and it was a playbook for the guys I was coaching, and I just tried to take, I was always kind of like, just give me the truth, just simple, keep it simple, and just give me the truth. And so I tried to just make it as clear and as concise as possible so that people could just pick it up and just truth. Okay, you don't need any fluff. Time is important. Money. So, yeah. And it really stemmed from the desire to try and help others. And that's kind of what the fuel was this constant desire to try and gain knowledge and share it with others. And that's what I felt like allowed me to kind of channel shit. Have you ever heard the Maharishi quote? I think it's Maharishi, with the purity of intention comes the fulfillment of desire.
I bet I have. I'm sure all those quotes were just...
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Rammed in.
I was born and raised here, so,
Yeah.
Whoops.
Well, there's receptivity, too. They can try and force it in, but if you're not receptive, it ain't going in there.
No, yeah.
But, yeah, it took years of consolidating. I would write things on my computer, channel it, write it, title it, and then forget about it. Months would pass, write something else. Months would pass, write something else. And then over the course of like 8-9 years, I was like, I have a bunch of shit that I need to try and compile. So what I started doing was I just printed out all these different things that I had written. And this was actually one of my favorite parts of creating the book, was taking all these Word documents. I mean, like hundreds of like 1-page, 2-page, 3-page Word documents, and just putting them out on, I laid them out on the floor in the rec center, in the dance room. And
do you have a photo of that?
I think so. Yeah.
Nice.
And I laid it all out, and then I started going through, and I was like, how do I sequence this for people to understand and make it like, one bite at a time, step by step. So I went through and I just like laid it out like a puzzle and just like organized it. And then I was like, all right, what do I need to keep? What do I need to remove? What do I need to expand on?
That was actually one thing that impressed me about your book is you could say it's a very dense topic, but it's also very simple in the way that you approached it in terms of self-help. But it's a lot of information, and I was impressed with how you managed to kind of consolidate all of it. It did feel like it had some linear cohesion to it, which is good for a book. I am kind of curious, how did you find TM in the first place, or how did you know that Fairfield existed? And what was that first experience like for you learning how to meditate?
I remember I got sober. So I quit alcohol and cocaine. And I was like, all right, after I almost overdosed, I was like, I need to get my shit together. So I quit drinking, quit doing drugs. And I spent about 3 months at my parents' lake house alone and reading a bunch of self-help books. And that's when I started trying to meditate. And what I would do is I would just sit like legs crossed and close my eyes. And I would just whisper in my head, show me the way, show me the way, show me the way. And eventually it would lead me to this feeling where everything was just kind of gone, and it was just me there. And I opened my eyes, and then I could just see like nature. And I just felt like clear and calm. And I was like, what the fuck is this? And so that was new for me. And I kept doing that every day for about 6 months. And then my mom came to me, and she's like, hey, I know you've been, getting sober and reading some books and trying to do this meditation thing. I found something called Transcendental Meditation. Do you want to learn that with me? And I was like, sure. So we went and learned TM together. And after the first time I learned TM, I was like, oh, this is it. I was like, this is the same thing I've been doing, but it's just a little easier. And, it's a mantra.
Sure.
But basically I had a mantra before. It was just show me the way.
I agree with you there. I've had some profound experiences doing meditation. Of course, I grew up with it here in town. And it's funny, like growing up with friends, as far as being mischievous, I remember a good friend of mine, I guess I won't mention names, but we would have this game where we would like reinvent the mantra.
Don't tell them that.
Yeah, it was like 5th, 6th grade, something like that. No, in all seriousness, we actually did practice meditation, but like the human spirit wants to just mess with it and like understand the mechanics of it too.
It's the fascination of like, I'm doing something inside my mind, and it's causing an effect, and it's so simple. And I feel like, for me anyway, I used to get so caught up in my thoughts and in the world, and like, I have to be like this, I have to do this, and the conditioning from my parents and society and the pressure that I put on myself to try and achieve, and all these different things, watching movies and television, seeing people at their pinnacle, at their peak, and then comparing yourself to them, seeing, look at them, why am I not like that? And judging yourself, and then constantly just putting more and more pressure on yourself and increasing your own levels of stress based on the expectations you have of yourself to do something or to be something. And then you're like, oh, I can cut ties with all this BS and I can just be here. And you're just more conscious of like, now you can co-create something that you desire. But then again, it's like, who is you?
I would relate it to a Chinese finger trap. I love those because I think it teaches a really important lesson, which is basically like when you're down in the dirt or whatever it is, and you're wrestling with your own demons, and you're trying to fight to get through, and how am I not like this or that? It's like being in that Chinese finger trap. And it's so funny because, I remember doing one of those as a kid where I didn't know how to get out. And so I tried it at a toy store.
Oh, yeah.
And I ripped it. And then I had to just like exit.
Oh, God.
But it stayed with me. It's funny now that I recall that story. But of course, the secret is to like let go and to ease oneself, and you find you get out immediately. Mm-hmm. So that's been so true in my life. And, you mentioned various addictions. I've been a tobacco smoker for pretty much my whole adult life. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so I'm still wrestling the shit out of that one. And pretty much every important woman in my life has pleaded with me, begged me to wake up and stop doing it. So I think about them every time. And
so, yeah, I teach at MIU, and one of the courses that I teach, health-related fitness. It's called health-related fitness, so people think I just show them how to do push-ups, but it's a lot more than that. One of the lectures is on mental and emotional health, and talk about coping mechanisms. And basically, coping mechanisms are just different behaviors that we engage in that help us deal with life. So if we are experiencing life and certain feelings are hard for us to experience, let's say sadness, shame, guilt, those, some people call them low vibrational energies. So those low vibrational energies are usually based on some sort of past experience, conditioning that hasn't been like healed yet. So just about every addiction you can name, I've had it. And now I'm almost free. Well, I think I am free. I'm free from all of them, but so I've been celibate for like the last 3 months. And I still like see a beautiful woman and I'm like, you're so beautiful. But then I'm like, no. I'm trying to harness my energy. And when you find something else that brings you greater peace than the cigarette, you'll have a different coping mechanism to go to. Identify what your negative habits are, your negative coping mechanisms: drugs, alcohol, nicotine, abuse of whatever it is, sex, food, gambling. And you just say, okay, I have that. I don't want to do that anymore. First, you have to become aware of what it is that has you hooked.
Right.
And then you can say, all right, well, now I'm more conscious. And anytime you're faced with that, it just comes up in the moment. You're ready to go light up a cigarette and you say, oh, wait, what am I feeling? Maybe just get used to feeling the feeling that I'm feeling. And that's as simple as it is. Feel the feeling you're feeling. Stop resisting it. Because you're resisting it, so you just want to light up so it goes away.
Yeah.
You know what an etch and sketch is?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
So you take an etch and sketch, right? And you turn the knobs and you draw shit. So your whole physiology, your whole like being is this etch and sketch. And usually what happens is you've drawn something and you're so used to drawing these things. What I think meditation does is you just shake it up and then you'd be like, oh, blank slate. Now I can choose differently. But if you're so conditioned to choose the same things, you're just going to draw the same thing. So Shake it up to get rid of the impressions that are there, and then realize in the moment when you start to repeat the same pattern, all right, I want to choose a different behavior. So for me, when I first got sober, I was like, okay, no alcohol or cocaine. What am I going to do with my time? Read books, write, work out, meditate, and just obsess with the healthier habits.
Yeah.
But obviously, like, obsess might not be the best choice of words.
Well, maybe in the beginning it is maybe an obsession.
Yeah.
And then trying to find the balance with it, right? Because, there's only so many hours in the day and so many muscle groups you can work before you actually just start pulling and breaking things, Mm-hmm. I came to terms with something too, which is, it sounds so obvious, but obviously smoking is a destructive habit. And for me, there's some identification or attachment to that very fact that it is destructive. And I realized perhaps maybe at its core, one of the things that I'm seeking in like shadow ways or behaviors is how to be understood. Because there's like maybe this voice like, oh, I'm a wounded person. I've gone through this, and this, and here's my evidence. I'm a messed up, wounded person, and a part of me like wants you to know it. And then I relate it too about like what drives me to create art in the first place. Usually comes, for me anyway, from this place of like, maybe at my core feeling misunderstood. You know what I'm talking about a little bit? But it's like, like there's that chance, like I want to convey my thoughts and ideas in a way that gets understood. Or if I have a deep, complicated emotion, it would be the reason why like I made that art sculpture there on the shelf, like that I want people to know what that feeling was.
Yeah, it's interesting. The first thing I would say is that desire to be understood. I'm like, get rid of that shit.
Yeah, right? Well, no, but it's like, I want to understand me.
Yes.
Maybe that's
all you can control.
That's the gold switch.
What you control is your understanding of yourself. You're not going to have control over whether or not other people understand you. They'll understand you from their own level of consciousness, knowledge, experience, whatever. The more in harmony someone is with truth, the more likely they'll be able to clearly reflect back to you yourself. If they're not, it's a projection of their shit. So whatever it is you're trying to create, like that's you. You know what you're choosing out of. So if you're choosing out of surrender to God, that's a conscious choice. If you're continuously choosing something and you're not sure why you're choosing it, that's something that needs more investigation, more self-reflection, more introspection, because most likely it's a repressed emotion. You can call it a demon. In Christianity, all the demons are emotions. Lust, pride, envy, jealousy, wrath, anger, sloth, gluttony. I'm like, yeah, I know all of them. But, looking at your own unconscious and bringing the unconscious to consciousness, that's what meditation does. Meditation is basically shadow work.
Yeah.
But shadow work sometimes can be a little bit more of the intellectual process of talking about it. But experiencing it and having an intellectual understanding, I think really they need to go hand in hand. Well, what was your question?
No, I mean, it's great. I love it. No, you had a really good point. I think I was speaking to maybe some of the inner workings of what an addiction might look like. And it's this voice that says, I want to be understood. And I think the healing part of it, or how it gets integrated, is to be like, kind of turn it back on myself, or look in the mirror and say like, you're understood, you are loved. I am reflecting that back to myself, as opposed to being like extrinsically motivated, having someone else give that to you, sort of like wag the dog or something. That's good. You actually played college football. And are there like different tiers of college? Because I don't really follow football much.
Yeah, I played at Plymouth State University. It's a D3
it's a college.
School. It's a college. It's a D3 school. So there's D1, D2, D3. So I was D3. It's like the lowest.
When I was in 7th grade, I thought, without a shadow of a doubt, I was going to be a professional golfer.
It could still happen, right?
It could still happen. But then there was this sinking feeling that it wasn't going to happen. And I kind of walked away from the game for a long time. And now I get to come back to it and just enjoy it for what it is. But
so I think for me, like I always had that desire, but I also wanted to be a movie star. So I would watch, football and baseball, and then Rocky and Rambo and Ace Ventura.
Oh God, those are all great movies, dude. Rocky, the original Rocky was so good. Oh gosh, there's some really sweet moments in Rocky when he's teaching her how to ice skate. Do you remember that? God, there's some good ones, dude. Or when he like goes up to he's like just getting going in the beginning of the film. He's like, "It stinks. My house stinks. It sucks." It's all this stuff. What a great comeback story, dude.
Oh yeah, the underdog.
I feel like they don't make movies like that anymore.
Yeah, I'm doing the screenwriting program right now here.
Dude, we should talk about that. Yeah. How is that?
It's cool.
And so do you have a few projects in the works, or are you just working on one?
So I finished my first one last semester. So like December.
Like a whole feature?
Yeah, feature
Wow.
length. The story about that one, I was like, in the first residency, I had this question. Dr. Travis, he came in. He's a professor at MIU. And I asked him, I was like, sometimes I feel like what I write manifests and comes true. So I'm like trying to be cautious about what I write. And I forgot what his response was, but I wasn't satisfied with it. I was like, well, I questioned it more. And I ended up writing this script. And in the script, it was about a baseball player who doesn't go pro and becomes a high school baseball coach. So basically similar to my life, but with baseball instead of football.
Cool.
And in that script that I was writing, in November, I wrote the scene where that character went home and visited his family, and his dad was working on a 68 Chevy Camaro. And kept writing the script. I went home in December to visit my family, and my dad showed me a car he bought, and it was a 68 Chevy Camaro.
No shit.
And I was like, oh my God.
Are you kidding?
No joke. I've got a picture of it, and I can show you the script.
Wow.
And it was just like, my mind was just like, really? And I just started questioning. I'm like, all right, what came first? You know, did you buy the car first and then I picked up on it and wrote it? Or did I write it and then you picked up on it? Or did it happen all at the same time? But that kind of goes into this whole unified field, we're all connected type thing.
Yeah, it sure does. I mean, it makes you think like, okay, are we living in a simulation? Is this the Matrix? Is this the unified field? Pure consciousness?
Yeah. Have you heard of Aham Brahmasmi?
Oh, yeah, sure.
I am totality.
I've got a few things tattooed on my arm.
Sanskrit?
I got a few Sanskrit things,
sayings
yeah.
tatted on you?
Someone's got
Nice.
Twamasi
Yeah.
or something. Yeah.
It's pretty interesting because it's like time
Doesn't exist.
So it's like you can connect into the source of all things, past, present, future. It really is just infinite, and we're just along for the ride. So sit back, motherfucker. It's like, well, why do you think all these enlightened people say meditate and do yoga? Because that's what chills you out when you fucking realize it. But yeah, basically, there's a river, and you're floating down the river, and you can surrender to the current of the river, and you can like paddle over here, but you're getting where you're going. You can try to swim upstream if you want, but it's better to surrender.
Yeah, I think you're right. Speaking of movies too, that was one of the reasons why I absolutely loved Interstellar.
Oh, yeah.
It was kind of its commentary on time.
Yeah.
There's that incredible scene towards the end of the film where he's meeting with his daughter, who's now like a 80-something-year-old woman. She's on her deathbed. And you get a sense that like he's talking to his mother, but it's his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
His daughter's giving him the blessing to go out and live his life, and he's this grown-ass man. It's just like, whoa, dude. And I've had moments like that too in my life where, I don't know, maybe the 60-year-old me was like tapping me on the shoulder, or even the inner child or the kid that was learning how to ride the bike is still walking with me, you know? That we would have moments of wisdom from like iterations of ourselves that haven't yet come to fruition, at least on our linear timeline. But they're all there. It's like there's this illusion that we're getting older and, you know, like the things that are happening. That was another question I was going to ask you too, is like, well, you shared one story at least, but anything else that you would classify as miraculous or mystical or things that you couldn't explain? A moment in time.
In my life?
Yeah,
Oh,
an
man.
experience.
Yeah. So in the book, I call them faith builders. You know, growing up, we kind of are conditioned by whatever, parents, religion, society, school, media. And we have this, we can develop a limiting belief of what is real. I always had faith that there was more than what I could see. And like basically our sense organs, senses of perception, are limited as humans. We have the capacity to like expand that. And I think we haven't completely developed that as humans. So I think it was like on the spectrum of light, we're only able to, like imagine the spectrum of light, infinite in both directions, and humans can only perceive about this much.
Yeah.
In the scale of things, we're very limited, especially in our ability to try and intellectually understand. But it's a tool that we have. So we're like, all right, we'll try to use this. But yeah, so I had an experience. I've had quite a few different things that I would consider miraculous. I saw an orb on my wall when I was living at home about a month before I came here to MIU as a student. And basically I woke up like 2, 3 in the morning, and there was this white light, like a circle.
Like about that big?
About that big, like
wow.
2 foot in diameter. And the first time it was on my closet, and we lived on the river. And then I was like, that must just be the moon shining off the river and reflecting. So I turned and looked to the window, and the blinds are closed. And I was like, huh. And I turned, and it's still there. And just this peaceful feeling, no fear. And then I was like, must be my cell phone or my computer, like, making that light. So I look, and my computer and my cell phone aren't putting off any light. And I'm just like, and I just sat there and I just looked at it for like 2-3 minutes. And then all of a sudden it just like dissipated and there was nothing. It just happened spontaneously with no conscious effort. And then about 2 weeks later, same thing, different wall, same exact experience. Window, closed, phone, computer, there it is. And I was just like, amazing. This is fucking crazy, man.
It's super cool.
I wasn't too religious, but I was always like, I believe in God. So I was like, all right, it's a white light. It's the Holy Spirit. And then I was like, what is a Holy Spirit? I'm like, could be anybody, but I feel like all these different saints and sages, when they realize God, it's the same being, just in a different form. And we're all that. You have that Holy Spirit. I have that Holy Spirit. Or if you want to call it pure consciousness, that's all it is. And it's just that, whatever that was, it was there. I don't know if it was Jesus or, a personal aspect of the Holy Spirit. I think it was just the Holy Spirit. So I'm like, okay. Shit's wild, man.
Were you born into a family that did the Christianity thing?
My dad grew up like Catholic, and my mom, she was kind of more of like a gypsy, but I think I went to Sunday school until a certain age, and then it was just my own inner desire to know the truth and to know God, and read a little bit about Christianity, Buddhism, Taoism, Hinduism.
Yeah, when I came across that story about the orb in your book, I had a kind of a similar experience. It was a little different. I was still in grade school, and I got it in my head that I was going to go on a vision quest, and I became enamored with sort of Native American culture, and I had a buddy at the time. We were both like super into it, and one of the things was, let's do a vision quest. My mom, being who she is, like helped me set that up. I think I was in 7th grade or something like that.
Oh, nice.
So, but we found a spot just outside of town, friend's land, and set me up with a blanket and some water. And I had a little send off with my friends. And I was to stay there. I was going to stay there for 2 nights. I think I was going to spend the weekend there. And then I think we had some sort of system, like if I did need something, or I was going to put a rock somewhere.
As a signal?
Yeah. I only ended up spending 1 night there. But it was powerful. And I remember, because I didn't actually have a tent or anything. Part of the goal of this was to be like down to the minimum. And you were supposed to fast, do whatever, and I did that too. But yeah, so this was like a 24-hour experience. But when I went to sleep that night, I saw shooting stars, and in hindsight, I'm thinking, okay, I don't know if there's anything particularly special about that. If you're out in the country, you'll see them all day, all night long. But what I did notice is I like turned over in my sleeping bag, and I was looking down at the ground, and I saw 2 orbs, very small, and like you, I was reaching for the rational explanation. At least in the beginning, I thought, okay, it's got to be fireflies. That's the only fucking thing. It's bugs, obviously. But I'm thinking this, and I'm also just kind of swimming in the the experience of this vision quest and kind of like trying to surrender to nature and just like let go. And at one point I like reached out my hand to like, because it looked like I could pick them up or something. They were just kind of, like I couldn't. Like, I don't know what they were.
Nice.
It's not that they were like reflecting off of something and it, like they weren't there.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it was maybe a similar feeling. And then I was just kind of left with some degree of like comfort. Like that had to have been love.
Yep.
I didn't even need to like explain it or rationalize it anyway. I was just like, man, that was just super cool. I'm just so glad I was alive to see that, whatever it was.
Yep.
But it comforted me in the night. So
nice. That's beautiful, man.
Yeah,
that's great.
It was good. What I found so inspiring is like, man, here you are, you're doing it, you're writing it in a book, you're sharing it. It's like validating in some way. It must have been for you, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, gosh, you have like a book. You can tell people I wrote a book.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember when I first got the book published, I was pretty excited and I was like, oh, cool. And then it went away and I was just like, huh. And then there was one night I woke up laughing. And I was like, I fucking published a book. And it was just this overwhelming feeling of joy. And it was just like, oh, cool. It was that self-fulfilling type of like trusting my intuition to start writing the book, surrendering, and how that whole process was like integrated over the course of years, and it stabilized my faith and just like stabilized my trust in God, nature. And now we just keep on going. So it's like, you've heard chop wood, carry water.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So it's just like, all right, chop wood, carry water.
Exactly.
But for me, I know how much I struggled in my teens and early 20s. I just really wanted to create something that would get some people just go this way,
So you published the book. What was that experience like for you? And then getting it out there, I mean, you're self-publishing, right?
Mm-hmm. For me, I find more joy in creating than I do in trying to market and push stuff.
Yeah.
So after I wrote the book, I was like, screenwriting. And I just started going in that direction.
It's a chop wood, carry water thing. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I just trusted. I'm like, all right, I've done my part, which was surrender, produce, and now the products are out there. The fruits of my labor are out there. And I trust that if they're meant to be found, they'll be found. And if I had the money to market them, I would.
Yeah, I hear that. Marketing's tough, man. It kind of feels like this is just the beginning for you. Is that, you think you're going to write another book or?
Yeah. So right now I've got a lot of different things that I'm working on, creative projects. So like a business idea that I think will be beneficial, and some screenplays. And so I've gotten better at just trusting whatever it is that wants to come through me will come through me, and I'll know what I need to do when I need to do it. So I don't worry as much as I used to about like, what do I need to do? I used to worry like that a lot. And I've stabilized more within myself. Like, I'll know when I need to know.
That's awesome that you have that level of patience. It's actually something I kind of aspire to, because I think I beat myself up crazy hard about what's coming in the future.
Yep.
What are some of the biggest inspirations in the screenwriting movie world for you? Like, what inspires that?
I read a quote, Hopi Native American proverb, "Those who tell the stories rule the world." And I was like, who rules the world right now? All the fucking media, the Illuminati. Shit. So I was like, we need a good motherfucker running the show. So I was like, all right, I'll try to write some stories that lead people to truth, to God. So I really like stories that show character development. And I like it when I can relate to a character and the struggles that they're going through, and then seeing the journey unfold in a realistic way that I can really get on board with and be like, I want to root for that character. I want to be like, when I'm watching a movie, I want to feel like I'm that guy, or that guy the woman's trying to get, But basically I watch it and I want to experience what they're experiencing. And I think that's the whole trick with filmmaking and storytelling, is to make something so relatable that everyone that watches it is touched by it in their heart. And a lot of stuff today that's trying to, that's being produced and made it's
very surface.
Yeah, it's like the rest of the world. In the material world, it's like money. What makes money? What sells? This, that. It's all superficial, surface level. So I'm trying to write something that it has to still have that appeal so that it gets bought and produced. And like you think about the big Marvel movies and it's all just action and plot. I actually like some of the more origin stories that show those characters becoming.
Yeah, I like that sort of zero to hero
Yeah.
kind of trajectory. And I think you shared something, didn't you, about the differences between heroes and villains?
Oh, yeah.
Was that you?
Yep.
Okay, cool. I loved that. I actually, because then I brought it up to some friends and we were discussing it. I just thought it was great.
Yeah. So it's like heroes and villains are the same person. They just
Yeah.
made a different choice. So the hero experiences tremendous pain and suffering and says, I don't want anyone to ever feel this way. I know what this feels like. I don't want anyone to ever feel this way, and I'm going to do something to protect the people. And the villain says, I've experienced so much pain and suffering, I'm going to inflict this on everybody else. So it's just the choice of what you experience and what you do to try and either help others avoid that experience or inflict that experience on others.
Have you read that book, Story by Robert McKee?
I haven't.
Oh my God, dude. Okay, maybe like off air, I'll show you a copy of this book. It is, in my opinion, one of the Bibles, like the holy grail of story and screenwriting.
Nice.
Part of me got really disenfranchised by the way the industry and the market was kind of moving, especially with video on demand, streaming, and then what emerged as YouTube. I was like, man, the feature-length film got slaughtered by like TikTok. Fuck, like everyone's just doing this on their phone now. They don't give a shit. They don't have 2 hours in their day to do this anymore. I don't know what your feelings are about that currently, like where the state of the film industry is.
I think social media is like it's popular because we live in the age of instant gratification. We see the glory, we want the glory. Quick fix. It's it's the male climax, get me to the finish. Oh, that felt good. Now what? I know TV is really popular right now, but film has its place too. And I think there is a need for all of those different things. People are attracted to knowledge, whether they know it or not. And when they see it, they know it. So I feel like our jobs as creators and conscious creators is just to create the best quality content and then put it out in whatever avenue we are able at that time. So whether it's a podcast, YouTube, or the silver screen.
So what are some of your favorite movies of all
man.
time? Top 5, top 10?
The ones that I'm writing right now.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But come on, hit me with one or two.
As a kid, I really got into Harry Potter because I liked fantasy stuff, Lord of the Rings. I like series that have a good story and character, and you can see from my hair, I kind of like the Warriors. So I don't know, dude. I like a lot of different movies.
Yeah, that's cool.
Braveheart, Gladiator.
Yeah,
two of my big favorites.
Yeah, mine too. Braveheart, I remember, I think my mom and her boyfriend at the time snuck me into the theater.
Oh,
that was like the adult movie that they wanted to watch.
Yeah.
And I was probably way too young to see that movie, but it absolutely changed my life. I was like, holy shit, that is a movie.
Nice.
That is incredible. It was like, it came before I really had like an adult understanding of what the hell I just watched, but I knew it was epic, dude. Especially the music in that film too. Freaking love it, dude. I think Mel Gibson kind of gets a bad rap, but he is like OG, like as gangster as it gets.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah, Rocky. I liked Rocky and Rambo as a young kid. I think, I guess I would say I'm probably most drawn to a certain type of genre, which is the classical hero's journey, with a strong lead male. That's what I like. That's what I relate to.
Yeah.
But I also like movies that have that are stretching, like Interstellar. Some of those more evolved ones. But really,
Mean
it's
Girls.
about.
It's classic, right?
I have a hard time. But even some like animated movies, like the movie Soul. Have you seen Soul?
I did, yeah. That
So
was
even
good.
that, I was
Yeah.
like, damn, that's a good movie.
Yeah, it broke down some esoteric concepts and made them very tangible.
Yep.
So how much more of this writing program do you have?
Probably another year and a few months. We're like halfway through our second semester, maybe.
Man, and you already have 3 degrees, right? So this will be 4.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I mean, I don't have a single degree. I tried.
You also don't have any student loan debt, do you?
No student loan debt,
There you go.
which is nice.
Actually, I should say the first 2 degrees I only did so I could play football. So I did my bachelor's in physical education because I wanted to go to college and play football, and I had to get a degree in something. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll be a PE teacher, football coach. And then I ended up having hip surgery, and I redshirted a year. So I graduated on time with my bachelor's, but in order to play my extra year of football, I had to start a master's degree. So I started a master's degree in education so I could be an athletic director, so I could play football. And then my plan was to just play that year of football and then drop out. And I had a professor who convinced me to stick around and finish the degree. So that's what I did.
Dude, it's fantastic. Yeah. Well, Fairfield's all the better for having you in it.
Yeah.
And I feel like we should maybe just show the audience, too, the book that we're talking about here.
Oh, yeah.
That you wrote.
Yeah.
And it's great. Where do people pick these up?
You can get it on Amazon or DustinMatthewsMedia.com. I created all the things, and now I just kind of, okay.
They're released to the world.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm just so glad that you know, your willingness to come on the show, that you gave me a copy of your book, and I enjoyed it, and I applied some of it. It found me in a good moment. I would recommend it to others if they want to check it out. And I think you're doing really great things. It's been awesome talking with you today.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, man. This was great. I enjoy trying to help people. That's why I feel like I created the book in the first place. And I enjoyed being here with you and talking with you. This was a good time.
Yeah. Hell yeah, dude. All right.
Yeah.
Let's continue to chop wood, carry water.
Yes, sir. All right.
All right.
Thanks.
Bye, guys. Thanks for
See ya.
listening.